asked when the wedding was, and my daughter-in-law said, "We got married yesterday." My name is Margaret Wilson, and for most of my life, I believed family was everything. I believed that if you loved deeply, sacrificed silently, and stayed strong through every storm, life would eventually reward you with respect, gratitude, and peace. I believed a mother's love never goes unnoticed. I was wrong. At 72 years old, I stood in the doorway of my son's house, holding a small gift bag with trembling hands, my heart full of excitement and questions. I had come for one simple reason. I wanted to ask about the wedding. A mother's hope. My son Daniel was my only child. His father passed away when Daniel was just 12, leaving behind unpaid bills, a quiet house, and a scared little boy who clung to me every night. I worked 2 jobs for years, one during the day at a public library and another in the evenings cleaning offices. I skipped meals so Daniel could eat well. I wore the same coat for 10 winters so he could have a new one each year. When he got into college, I sold my wedding ring, the last memory of my husband, without telling anyone. And when Daniel graduated, I cried harder than I ever had before. I thought the hardest part of motherhood was over. I had no idea the hardest pain would come from him. Daniel and Linda. Daniel met Linda 3 years ago. She was beautiful, confident, and ambitious. She worked in marketing, dressed elegantly, and spoke with a sharp intelligence that impressed everyone. At first, I tried very hard to like her. I invited her over for dinner, asked about her childhood, complimented her cooking. But there was always something distant in her smile, something cold behind her polite words. She never called me Mom, never hugged me, never asked about my life. Still, I stayed quiet, because I loved my son more than my pride. When Daniel told me they were planning to get married, my heart filled with joy. I imagined helping choose flowers, dresses, and venues. I imagined being there, standing proudly beside my son on the most important day of his life. Months passed. No invitations, no dates, no details. Whenever I asked Daniel, he'd smile and say, "Soon, Mom. We're just busy." So that morning, I decided to visit them. The question that changed everything. Linda opened the door. She looked surprised to see me, almost annoyed. "Oh, Margaret, what brings you here?" she asked. I smiled, holding up the gift bag. "I was just wondering, when is the wedding? I thought maybe I could help with something." There was a pause. Linda looked at Daniel, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. Then she laughed lightly and said words that shattered my heart into pieces. "Oh, didn't Daniel tell you? We got married yesterday." The room started spinning. "Yesterday," I whispered. "Yes," she said casually. "Small ceremony. Close friends only." I looked at Daniel. "You didn't think to tell me?" I asked. He shrugged. "It was last minute, Mom. No big deal. No big deal. My only child. My life. My sacrifice. Not invited. Not informed. Not remembered." I felt invisible. The silent walk home. I didn't cry there. I smiled politely, congratulated them, and left. But the moment I closed my apartment door behind me, my knees gave out. I sank to the floor and cried like I hadn't cried since my husband died. I wasn't upset about the wedding. I was devastated by what it meant. I was no longer important. When love turns into expectation, things changed after that. Daniel started calling more often, but not to ask how I was. He needed money. First it was temporary help. Then, investment. Then, emergency. Linda would message me directly, listing expenses, new furniture, a car upgrade, business ideas. I gave, again and again, because I was still his mother. Until one afternoon, Linda came over with documents. She placed them on my table and smiled. Politely, "We're worried about you," she said. "At your age, managing finances can be difficult." The papers were for legal guardianship. They wanted control over my money. My hands shook as I read. My son sat silently beside her. That's when I realized, they didn't just forget me. They were planning to erase me. The awakening that night, I didn't sleep. I remembered every sacrifice, every skipped dream, every tear, and for the first time in my life, I asked myself a terrifying question: what if loving them is destroying me? The next morning, I called a lawyer. And that was the day everything began to change. Perfect. When your own child tries to take everything, the lawyer's office smelled of old books and fresh coffee. The walls were lined with certificates, framed carefully like shields of truth. My lawyer's name was Henry Collins. He was calm, sharp-eyed, and spoke slowly, like a man who chose his words carefully. After reading the documents Linda had brought, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Margaret," he said, "this isn't concern. This is control." My heart pounded. "They think I'm incapable. They're claiming you're mentally unfit to manage your finances," he explained. "If approved, they would legally control every dollar you own." I felt sick. All because I helped them. I whispered. Henry nodded. "Unfortunately, yes, this happens more often than you think." That day, I signed papers, not to give up my freedom, but to defend it. The court notice 2 weeks later, a court notice arrived. Daniel didn't warn me. Linda didn't call. They were officially challenging my mental competence. I stared at the paper for hours, my hands shaking. 72 years of life. Decades of work. And now I had to prove I was still a person. That night, I opened old photo albums. Daniel as a baby, Daniel on his first bike, Daniel at graduation. I wondered when love had turned into entitlement. Facing my son the night before the hearing, Daniel came to see me alone. He looked tired, but not guilty. "Mom," he said softly, "Linda thinks this is for the best." "For the best for whom?" I asked. He avoided my eyes. "You're old. What if something happens?" I stood up, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. "I survived losing your father. I raised you alone. I built everything I have with my own hands. And you think I can't handle my own money?" He said nothing. That silence told me everything. The courtroom was cold and unforgiving. Linda sat confidently beside Daniel, dressed in cream-colored elegance. She looked prepared. I sat alone. When the judge entered, my heart felt like it would break through my chest. Linda's lawyer spoke first, painting me as forgetful, fragile, confused. Then Henry stood. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "my client manages her own finances, lives independently, volunteers weekly, and has no medical diagnosis suggesting incapacity." He handed over documents, bank statements, medical records, testimonials. Then he turned to me. "Margaret, would you like to speak?" I stood. My legs trembled, but my voice didn't. "I may be old," I said, "but I am not broken. I am not a burden. And I will not be erased by my own child." The room was silent. The verdict after a long pause, the judge spoke. "This court finds no evidence that Mrs. Wilson is mentally unfit. The petition for guardianship is denied." I closed my eyes. I had won. But when I looked at Daniel, he wasn't relieved. He was angry. The final straw. A week later, I received a message from Linda. "You embarrassed us in court. Don't expect to be part of our lives anymore." I stared at the screen. Then I smiled, because for the first time, the threat didn't scare me. Choosing myself, I met with Henry again. "I want to protect myself," I said. "We updated my will, set financial boundaries, cut off unauthorized access." Then I did something I'd never done before. I said no. No more money. No more guilt. No more silence. A new chapter begins. I joined a local community center. Started painting again. Made friends who laughed without needing anything from me. One afternoon, my neighbor Evelyn said something that stayed with me. "Sometimes, losing people is how you find herself." Please support me and subscribe my channel.